Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here. Check out the series. You know what to do. Like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists. And I'm so excited once again to have on here Suki Waterhouse. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. It's good to see you. I was just saying it's been nearly exactly a year since the last time that we did an interview, and so much has happened. Daisy Jones and the Six was only something you were telling me about a year ago, and that has
Mm,
since become its own worldwide phenomenon thing. You went on tour with Father John Misty. You've played, it looked like Lollapalooza in Brazil. Is that right?
I did, yeah. I just did Lollapalooza, and I did Brazil, Chile, and Argentina, and then I had 4 days off, so I went to Patagonia, which was, oh my god, so good, so beautiful. I mean, that was just, yeah, that was like an addition on top of doing the shows. It was incredible.
Yeah, I can only dream of that about that one. I'm pretty much just a chained to the desk here, talking to the folks. But it's been cool to do the vicarious thing anyway. Watching all the success. I mean, seriously, congratulations on this past year. I don't know how it's felt for you, but this seems like a lot all at once.
Yeah, it definitely has been a lot at once. So, in terms of like my sanity and like trying to, that kind of stuff is a little. I can't say I have it right now, but that the whole year has been amazing. I think like I never would have thought that the show and my music would have sort of been having these like kind of memorable moments like together at the same time, and it wasn't really meant to happen like that. It was, a pandemic changed everything, so I think the timings weren't really meant to work out like the way they did, but um it's been very cool, having it together and being in a show about being a musician, and then also kind of having like a lot of my like dreams come true, I guess, at the same time. It's very, yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah. How was the tour with Tillman? I've known Josh for a long time. I'm going to be seeing him here in a couple of weeks as well.
Oh, it was great. I mean, like that, I've been such a fan of Josh for years and years, and I don't know, even when I first found out that I got the tour, I was like, really? Like he did, like he likes my stuff. Um, and yeah, I was like, I don't know, I think he has like a big like presence that you think is going to be really kind of overwhelming, and like kind of like I was like sort of nervous, and then that quickly like went away really fast, and he's such a lovely person and so deeply intelligent, and the show is just so good. Like
Mm.
every night I was just felt like so lucky to come and go and watch the show, and I would always be going out there just like watching Josh, watching like 10 guys get up on stage every night, and like the attention to detail and every single thing. I mean, that show is like everyone has to see his show. It's
Mhm.
beyond. I mean, my mom came and watched in New York and in Canada, and she was like, she just hasn't, she got converted. She has not stopped talking about him.
I've seen that happen to a lot of people. I see the moment in their face as they're watching him on stage, and it just happens. The guy is an incredible performer. I saw you're going to be reuniting. I think you said with him at the was it Johanna Festival later this year, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, cool lineup there too. Well, let's and of course this all revolves around the music. To love, um, I've been loving. What a great song that's come off. And this is just is this is the one off right now? Is that what I read?
I think it's a one-off. I mean, yeah, I guess I'll probably release a couple more singles, and then hopefully another record. Maybe, yeah, maybe like sometime next year, I think. But I think this year is for writing it. And I guess like I think To Love feels like it's like part of like it's kind of like the invisible line in between the music that I've been making and the next kind of like era of music. But I'm still like kind of it's starting to like show itself a little bit more, but there's that kind of, yeah, that like transition period, and that finding like what that like next, what it's going to look like for me, like the kind of music that I'll be making, and just like meeting a lot of people, and yeah, seeing who's like available and who pops up creatively in your life that you align with, and that's what this year is for, really.
Yeah, the bridge song right there, and it's a really beautiful song, and kind of reading about it, being on the positive side versus some of the older songs. I think the press release mentioned the sad girl indie thing, which is kind of a funny stamp to have every now and then, but seeing this direction, everything, especially coming off the Milk Teeth EP, like when I heard Neon Signs for the first time, I was like, oh, this is a different voice for her. This is something heavier. I mean, is that, do you find, like, I'm a big fan of that one, by the way. Do you find yourself kind of veering towards that at all?
Yeah, I definitely have another song that's really similar to Neon Signs, or kind of in that same sort of ilk, that's I think every now and then I feel like this kind of stompier, like kind of Debbie Harry, like whole sort of thing kind of comes out, and that like kind of garbage, or just like wanting to do something that feels like harder and more coarse. And that was my, the Neon Signs was a song that I'd had around, like I made that song years and years ago, and I made like I don't know if you've seen the video for it, but it was like one of the first videos I made, and I made it for like, I think like $500. Like I made it on such a shoestring, and I made like a paper mache head, and I put it over a friend of mine, and then we got in the back of a car and we just shot it all on iPhone. But that song I loved, and I definitely like it, it's a part of the kinds of songs that I like to make. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that what Milk Teeth really was? I mean, I know there was the whole story about Good Looking having its kind of resurgence and everything. Was that EP kind of your chance to collect some of the cast-offs and the vault songs like that?
Yeah, definitely collect the ones that the songs that like I'd had, that I maybe like done kind of a little bit with, but not got to, not finally put out, and a lot of that, there weren't really like good reasons of why I hadn't really put them out, and I definitely didn't think I would be able to have an EP, or like get them on a record. So that was definitely, it felt like I got to like all this, like kind of the nods from the past, or all the songs from the past that hadn't really had like their moment to actually be released properly, be put on a record, and I guess like tie up that whole sort of tie up the past, and have them recognized in some way, and like memorialized in a record format, and kind of get to honor them, and then sort of release them and say goodbye to them. And then it's a strange place to, it's a very kind of like new sort of place for me to be in, being like, oh, actually even people are like listening to the songs, or like kind of even recognizing what you put out. I think I've got that kind of feeling around the second record. But with To Love, it just sort of I think I'm always just trying to go inward and really honor that process of like of going inward and finding importance in it, and that song, I think, like I always like know when it's kind of clicked, and I've got the thing that that sort of just like represents like the time that I'm in most accurately.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting the way you put it, to put it out there and say goodbye, because like Neon Signs, like that was new to me. And so suddenly that's speaking for this moment where it was such a past view. Good Looking is probably a better example of that, because here's a song, that's a few years old that represents something of the past. And then suddenly it becomes something of the present for so many more people, than it ever had. Is there, Oh, is there a moment inside you where you have to sort of make that compromise to pull yourself back to that moment at all?
I mean, I love being pulled back to it. It changes the way that you see the song when suddenly people are suddenly people have ascribed all this new meaning to it. Even like you end up listening to the song so much more than you did. Like I always like I'd showed that song to I'd had that song as like part of the songs that I would show people all the time, and like all kinds of people in music, and everyone would always be like, no one really like thought that much of that song ever. So it's fun. Yeah, it's funny. It's like I love that part when I kind of been like listening to a lot and people appreciate it more, and then you're like, yeah, you know what, that is a good song.
Mhm.
And like for some reason, like I don't know how strange that you can kind of be like, you can, I always love that. I always love that song, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting how they can like the feeling around them can just suddenly change and shift, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
you think of a lot of artists that have dealt with the same thing, especially artists that they're around decades, and they have those records that just no one paid attention to, or the songs that no one paid attention to when they first come
Yeah,
out, and then decades later, it's like, oh, this is one of the greatest songs of all time. It's like,
yeah.
Elton John's had those. Weezer, with Pinkerton famously kind of, suffered through that. That's got to be an interesting moment for any artist, that it's like, oh, right, this was a good song. I wasn't wrong about that.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah. So then with all of this, of course, you also have Daisy Jones and the Six to be a part. Like, I don't know, since this is a show, since this was a role, since this music was written by someone else, like how much this also comes to speak for you as an artist at this point. But does it?
I mean, um I think I think a lot of like I think I think Daisy sort of as gave me like a sort of gift, like as an artist. I think it was more about putting myself inside of the character, and that kind of like gave me a lot as an artist. And also they gave, they basically, we basically had like on hand studio time, and like on hand, like we literally had Sound City to ourselves. Like we could go there whenever we want. Like we literally had the keys. Even like even when it was like the pandemic, you could go in there by yourself if you weren't around anyone else and practice, and just have all that space. So it kind of gave me like it gave me the opportunity to have my piano teacher, who's also an amazing musician who writes as well, and like like maybe like not every day would we be doing Daisy Jones songs. We'd start working on like my stuff, or like we just, it's like you have so many hours per day
Hmm.
of you kind of like go off course of your homework, I suppose. And I think that, yeah, that gave me a lot. And then you think about you kind of the importance of music for my character Karen. Like I guess I guess I had just always I'd been writing so much and always making music, but just there was something kind of like there was something kind of like still sort of holding me back from kind of like, I guess, like coming to completion, or like actually finishing a record, or um and it wasn't to do with like doing the work, because I like had the music ready. It was something like more psychological. And I think the show kind of, yeah, subconsciously helped me like break that down.
Yeah. Well, you've similar in the way that we were talking about with your own music, how people are kind of catching up. Like it feels like this is also one of those moments too, because you all shot this a couple of years ago now. it's it's like I'm guessing that you all have moved on from this in some sort of way, whereas we're all just like in it at the moment.
I don't know. We actually like kind of, I don't know, we still talk on the group chat constantly.
Well, that's fun.
We're still like all like speaking about whether or not we could do a show together. there's been like a lot of conversation around that. Like, I know like people like really want us to go on tour. Like, I think
I really want you to go on tour. Listen, and to
yeah,
interrupt you quickly, that was my first question to my friends at Atlantic Records. That was my first question to Scott Neustadter when I was talking to him. It's like, okay,
yeah.
yes, but can we get them on tour?
I know, right? Like, I mean, there's been so much like talking about that, and we did some rehearsal time recently, so everyone got back together recently to rehearse. Yeah, I think Scott said it in an interview, but it's like the hardest thing is, and you get like, like everyone who's like, yeah, I guess moved on in the fact that like everyone has to like work and has other jobs now, and like, is that possible to make that happen? I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's like the right thing, but I think do we have to like do a show at some point. I think that's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like, the magical 3 days, you do New York, you do LA, and then you do a
Right?
festival, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It would still it'd just be brilliant. But we need to do it. Like yeah, I feel like we have to do that soon.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to do, but yeah,
It,
we're not that moved on from it in a weird way. We're like very, and like the press, we just went on a press tour together, so we all came together again. And I think, oh, I don't know, we had like so much anticipation about the show coming out, and like I think just like the amount of work we put into it, and like how many years of our lives we've spent together at this point, we're just very like, um I don't know, we're very bonded in a way that is quite unusual, I think.
yeah.
For,
Yeah, because usually you shoot the show and everybody's like, "Oh, it was a family." That's the cliche line, right? It's a family, and then you walk away and you never see each other again. But it's not the
I don't know.
case.
I usually feel like I do see. I don't know. I usually like do take away quite. I do take away a friend, like at least one friendship. Like that's usually pretty good, even if I don't see the person all the time. It's just like just like kind of like you can't help, but it's just so unusual to be able to get to know someone that well in such a short space of time, and it's like it's very good for like flighty romantic people, because even like as a friend you're just like, oh, I
Mhm.
get to see, I get to see you, I get to basically fall in love with a new friend and like see what it's like for them to be like super silly, and see what it's like for them to, we do like night shoots and stay up all night together for 2 weeks, or see what it's like for them to be stressed. I mean, it just like creates kind of an intimate environment so quickly, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. There's some of the stories out there. What was it? Camille was on one of the. It was Fallon or something. I don't know, but she was talking about getting everybody, the three of you all getting locked in a room and having to watch.
Oh yeah.
Like we like hearing those friendship stories anyway. It is cool to see
Yeah.
that kind of camaraderie out of the gang. But so what does this leave us at? Because we're all asking about season two. Like, if it's a success, what happens next?
I don't think that I don't know. I don't think that's I don't I mean, yeah, what we always joke about what that would look like, but in terms of like the story, I feel
Mhm.
like the story has been told as as it was written. So we would have to get a little bit creative for for season two.
See, I think
Yeah.
there's a few scenarios, personally speaking. There's one, the 20 years later reunion, that pulls everybody together, and what there can be drama, of course.
Mhm.
There's two, what happened in the interim, because your character, Karen, gets to have the new wave years, the 80s, and I think that's really interesting
Yeah.
as
You
well.
see a flash of her with her guitar.
Exactly. I hope you've gotten to play the guitar some.
That was the first time I'd been handed a guitar for that scene. It was pretty crazy.
See, that's just another learning experience. Or Scott was saying, it could even be a series, what's the word I'm looking for, where um they take a different cast but at the same period in time, anthology
Yeah.
series. That's what I was
Well,
looking
that
for.
might happen. That sounds very sad because that means we wouldn't be involved in it.
See,
I
I don't
think
want that one either.
that's probably more likely what's happening. They're probably talking about it and planning it, and we're not invited back. That's probably what
See, no, I think
it's
there's a chance to tell
us
the
out.
reunion. Yeah, to tell the reunion story here, because I don't know that that's ever been done in movie form in this sort of way. So it's
I mean, we'd be Yeah, we'd be like Fleetwood Mac, like now, just like
But you
writing horrible tweets about each other.
but you'd have to wear the aged makeup again, right? Like everybody would have to do the whole thing in the aged makeup.
Yeah,
Like how did you feel about that parts being kind of grown up in that way?
I it was actually just kind of like quite difficult to get it right. It's surprising like how difficult it is. Like some of us I think got away with it better than others. Like I think Karen looked pretty insane. I think I got pretty I kind of look Karen kind of looks like Andy Warhol. She looks like like a mix between Debbie Harry and Andy Warhol. But no, I love it. There's a lot of like wig experimentation. I think I did like 3 or 4 um try-ons for like which, how to like stretch your eyes in a particular way. I don't know, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Some people, I think Will looks like, I don't know, I thought that he really pulled it off. Um but that was a particular, it's fucking hilarious doing all the
I like,
interview stuff.
yeah. I like seeing Sam in the age. It's like I don't remember exactly what he was wearing, but in my head it's like a sweater, and the wispiness to him. And it's like like that was a good move right there. That was a good move.
he had he had it down.
Yeah. Not to take this in a too heavy of a subject, but I did want to bring up because it only got hit on a little bit, but for your character to also have an abortion story that goes along with it, and for that to have landed, and again, we talk about how the pandemic kind of threw everything off, but to that have landed at that exact moment when that became such a big part of the news, it's still such a big part of the news, as Florida just fucking did some shit again today with a 6-week ban. And again, I'm not trying to take this in a weird spot, but I guess what I'm asking is how important was that for you to be a part of that story, and to did it mean anything different because it did land when it did?
It definitely did actually, because I guess I was like thinking in my, I was kind of like thinking about it in my own experiences of like, what's it like for me now, or like for women now, compared to what it was like then. And I was sort of trying to like, I don't know, I keep like giving these examples to myself. I'm like, well, in some ways we really celebrate like, uh, working, like, kind of, I guess like we really celebrate Rihanna at the Super Bowl and her having her baby bump out. I mean, I don't know if that's the greatest example because she's like, a very wealthy pop star, but there are some, that like I think in some ways there's, it's like a little bit, it's a bit more like celebrated, and you know compared to like when I look at like Christy McVie or Stevie Nicks and or like Chrissy Hine, like they never had children, and I think they've all spoken about like that being a regret of a regret in a way, or they just never felt like that was something they were able to do because they had to. It just never would have been. It would have just had to have set them back so much, or maybe like there are lots of reasons, but um I think like I kind of finally like, so I guess like when I think about now and then, that hasn't changed. It's like I think women are expected to have jobs like they don't have children, and they're expected to have kids like they when you have kids, you're expected to work like they don't exist. And it just seems like it's just like, yeah, it's kind of like an impossibility, and we just don't have there's just like not the support systems to be able to like to have children, and work in the way that is expected of you to work and to be able to succeed the same way as men. And that's just something that I think it's just like it's just always going to be a huge struggle. But in terms of what you're talking about, like definitely I had a much deeper resonance with me because of what's going on in the world right now. And just like how much we're going back in time, and how much just that choice being stripped of women in America. It's just so it's so fucking shocking that's the case. And it definitely felt heavy shooting those scenes, knowing that was knowing that that's going on in the world, and thinking about the situations that women are being put in right now.
So fucking shocking, I think, is the perfect way to put that.
Yeah.
That's but I think that's one of the, I mean, there's many reasons. That's one of the reasons why I love seeing that storyline there, and specifically focused on that. I mean, and I could say that about so many parts of that show.
Yeah.
It's
nice we get to see Karen. I don't think we often get to see a character, like a female character, sort of stick to like that. Actually, it's kind of like, no, she wants a career. She says no, she lets go of the guy, and she moves on, and you see her in the future, and she doesn't have any regrets, and she's she made the right choice. And there's something like really beautiful about that. I don't think you get to I really don't think you get to see that very much, where it's not like it's like she sits there and she says, it's not entirely true about, he says, she did me such a, she kind of like let me go and let me down, or said that she didn't love me or whatever. And she's like, it's not really true. Like she still she did love him, but she knew, like, because she loved him, she let him go, because she knew that she wouldn't be able to give him those things. And so it's kind of like this big romantic declaration of love, in a way that, from the woman, and letting him go, and not having his baby, and going on and having her career. And he ends up marrying a girl that kind of looks like Karen. But anyways,
that's true. You made me realize I love the movie Devil Wears Prada. Like, love it. One of my all-time favorites, I'd probably say. I'll watch it anytime it comes on. I'm always upset at the end that she chooses the guy over her career. I think that's the one big fault in that movie right there.
Does she? Which guy? Adrian? She chooses Adrian?
She goes back to him. Yeah, and she takes the other job, but like, really?
No way. That happens at the end of Devil Wears Prada.
Happens at the end of it. She leaves the job. She gives up the fashion job.
What does she do? Does she go and be like a nursery school teacher or something?
Yeah, she becomes a writer for a smaller paper, which was always a part of a dream. But he's a part of that too. She kind of goes back to him, and to me, it's like, that's the wrong thing right there.
He's always like when he's always annoyed when she's like out at the events, and not like.
So you made that right anyway with this character.
That's shocking. I did not remember that part of the movie.
So yeah, no, I'm happy to see that you made that right. That's the big takeaway here. So what's next for you? Obviously, you've already said you're working on the album. And I look online, I don't see any. Your IMDb page doesn't show me another role. I mean,
I actually am doing a film right now.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
It hasn't been announced, but I am shooting something right now.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's actually with. I'm actually shooting something with Sam.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's fun.
I haven't told anyone that yet. I just did my first day the other day. Yeah, we're in England shooting something with some great actors, actually, that I've been a big fan of forever. I've always wanted to do a movie with Eddie Marsan, and so yeah, he's in the movie as well. And yeah, it hasn't been announced yet, so I don't know if it even will be. But that's what I'm shooting right now. So I'm doing that, and yeah, that's the only role I have right now. But yeah, definitely. There's a lot going on, and lots of shows coming up. I'm doing Shaky Knees and Governor's Ball, and a bunch of festivals over the next few months. Yeah,
busy. You're it's the funny thing.
Definitely am, yeah.
It's a funny thing, the two worlds that I play in, the music world on this side and then the film and TV world on this side. That question is hilarious, how different the answer has to be. Like on the music side, I'm like, so what's next? And like, oh yeah, we're in the middle of the album. It's called this, you start rattling off things. I ask an actor, like, what's next? I'm like, I can't tell you. It's
Can't tell you, it's a secret. I don't know if it's a secret. I haven't been told it's a secret, but yeah, that's I've told you. It's shooting, so it can't be a secret.
right.
But yeah, the album. Yeah, when you're like, "What's next?" It's like, yeah, I'm in the middle of the albums. It's really coming along, and you're like, shit, shit, better get going. Oh my god! But no, I have been there. Yeah, I have been. I mean, I'm writing all the time. Feel like there's like, yeah, you kind of go like you sort of go through. It just feels like that. Like doing another album feels like kind of like if it's just like so. When you just imagine doing another one, you're like, this is insane. How could I ever do that again? And I think of how long it took me to make the first one, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I meant to do it this year, and you're like, what? How's that gonna happen?
And somehow it all comes together, and there's
And
a record
somehow
at
it
the end.
does, and you just know that it, yeah, you know that it will. Like you know that all you know is that you're just gonna go through like uncomfortable, like a lot of difficulty, a lot of joy. Like it's the same thing as any, every time that you put yourself into that like creative space.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like the
and yeah,
fantasy and the truth about what you think of
the
your
reality.
favorite albums of all time, like that they just appeared, like they were handed down upon high, and here they are, and then you hear the real
Yeah.
story. It's like, oh fuck, that was rough.
Yeah. And like also just yeah, that you have to, like, I think yeah, I know like what, yeah, I know like what I know what I have to do in some ways, and then there's always just loads of surprises, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully like every time you do something like this, it's always like kind of like a mind altering process, and everything that you think that you have to do gets changed and flipped on its head. But I mean, that's what I kind of love about it as well. It's like that I sort of like know that I'll be surprised and unexpected things will happen, and you also kind of, because you're kind of working with um like I think the horizons of who would want to like work with me and now have kind of expanded a little bit, and that's like always quite interesting. Like I've just been like, even just getting connected with like some amazing producers, and you're like, oh, they live down the street, and just going around to their house and being like, wow, massive producer, you live like on my street, and like, and you want to do stuff like that's crazy. And then just like I think, yeah, that like that's like that's such a cool thing about this job, is you're just like, oh, I'm gonna be able to meet more people, and like, like, and some incredible people you'll meet, and it might not end up being, anything might end up coming with it, but that there will be, yeah, there probably will be people that will enjoy.
I look forward to hearing whatever comes out of any of that. Seriously, as I wrap up here, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I love what you're doing. This new single is so great to love. And hopefully I'll be catching one of these shows this summer, because knowing that you're out there and everything, and especially playing with some, buddies of mine here and there. It looks like an exciting year. And I hope we get to catch up the next time there's a record or a movie or whatever. But thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. See ya.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.